absurd, is it not? If you know, just on common sense, on legitimacy, on reason, on posterity, on providence, we need to be real and admit that we are being robbed by the banks. Imagine how can this not be happening to us? The banks loan us money at interest that they don't have to loan. They created by bookkeeping entry. The banks purchase government securities with money they don't have, money they create by bookkeeping entry. In layman's terms, the banks are creating with the stroke of a pen or the stroke of a keyboard the money they're using to buy up our country and indenture we the people to them and our government to them. This is why our government is working for them. It owes them. If you're part of the Occupy Wall Street movement, these corporations that you are opposed to, they have loans they have to repay, alleged loans. They work for the banks. Everything right now is working for the banks. The fractional reserve banking system is the system of a central bank. Most of the world banking, most of the world finances are run by a central bank. They all operate with this fractional reserve banking system. Any wonder the whole world is in debt to a bank? These banks create money out of nothing to buy up the world. If you happen to be pedantic, like I've heard people say, haven't heard people say they're pedantic. I've heard people say, you know, they're pedantic about the law. I've heard people say, yeah, well, that's really what they intended to do. Yes, I'm not debating that. This is really what they intended to do. I know that's what they really intended to do. Now, they didn't provide full disclosure when we were at the negotiating table for any of the loans I ever took out with them. They misrepresented themselves as lenders when they were really account creditors. In a contract negotiation, you need several things for the contract to be binding. You need full disclosure, which the banks never provide, because they misrepresent themselves as lenders, not as account creditors. You need a meeting of the minds. We need to agree on what's going to happen, and we need to honor what we say is going to happen on the contract. We don't have that because the banks don't say that they're going to credit an account. They say they're going to loan us money in order to justify their interest. There's no pretense about what they're doing. They're not in the slightest way, shape, or form leading us to believe we're going to credit your account. So much so that they're charging us interest. You can only charge interest on a loan. You need consideration for a contract to be binding. Both parties have to bring something to the table. The banks don't bring anything but a swindle, a lie. Some people have argued with me. The papers at closing, that's the consideration. I respond, it is not, because we pay for it. We pay for closing costs. It's closing costs. We pay for that paperwork. The bank provides zero consideration, none whatsoever, voiding the contract. The bank commits fraud by misrepresenting themselves as lenders. That fraud voids a contract. They have no consideration. There's no meeting of the minds. There is no full disclosure, and there's fraud committed. All these loans are based on fraud. We, the American people, have been lied to by the banks, by the government that works for the banks, that is telling us we're being loaned money when we are really not. And if this is what they intended to do, fine and dandy. This is not what we agreed upon when we took out the loan. We agreed upon a loan to occur. People that want to argue that digital encryption is money, fine and dandy. I'm not going to argue that. I So for your information, don't believe digital encryption is money. But if you believe digital encryption is money, fine and dandy. Listen to this. If I have 10 digital encryptions in my computer